Dr. Crystal here. Is your dog suffering from joint issues? Stay tuned to learn what can help with our veterinarian guest, Dr. Kevin Connolly.
You're listening to Live Foreverish, a show dedicated to helping you live just a little longer. Here's your hosts, Dr. Mike and Dr. Crystal Gossard.
So, Dr. Mike, dogs and joints. Rest in peace, my dear Winston.
Oh, I remember Winnie.
Yes, he suffered from joint issues.
Yeah.
And I'll have to tell you,
Such a sweetie.
every time he would get down, we would bring him back.
Yeah.
And we use nutrients.
Right. Yeah. You went through that for a long time, right? Yeah.
For probably 5 years. 5 years of nursing him, and he would just come back and be able to run and play. But, towards the end of his life, we couldn't. And that's
There
when
comes
we
a
knew.
point. There
was a point where even, the veterinarian said that it was time. And but it's something that many dogs deal with.
Yep.
And nutrition can help.
Right. It is. I mean, I think it's fair to say that this is not saying anything against anybody, right? Mm-hmm. But a lot of dogs probably get put down maybe earlier than if people just understood that there's help.
Right. Yes.
And so again, I'm not saying anything against anybody, but if they realize that they could do something, mm-hmm. you could add a couple years.
Yeah. So we're happy to have our guest, Dr. Kevin Connolly. He's an assistant professor of veterinary technology and equine science at Pierce College. He is a graduate of the Cummings School of Veterinary Medicine at Tufts University and did his graduate work in biochemistry and molecular biology at UCLA, where he studied transmissible antibiotic resistance and determinants of bacterial infectivity. Wow. He completed a residency in internal medicine at the Marion DuPont Equine Medical Center at Virginia Tech. He practiced companion animal and equine medicine in both primary care and referral centers. His interests include small animal and equine clinical nutrition and preventative medicine. Dr. Connolly, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Yes, we are. We're so happy to have you on. We have been looking for a vet for a long time. Yeah. Remember, Dr. Mike, we started this search maybe a couple of years ago.
Well, because we wanted to talk about dogs, cats, common pets, but was like we were thinking quarterly, like a quarterly show. Mm-hmm. So, Dr. Connolly, if this goes well, maybe we'll have you on more. Let's see.
So, I'm always curious to hear how people found their calling. Clearly, animal nutrition, animal health is your calling. What inspired you to focus on veterinarian medicine?
Well, actually, finding my calling took a little bit of time, but I like the challenge of the field. There's so many different diverse species that we work on, all with different health problems, some similarities, of course, but just the different things you have to do every day as a veterinarian, being an advocate for animals, being an educator for owners, and then really trying to make sure that we preserve their welfare as much as we can, and make sure that they have enriched high quality lives. Plus the fact that animals don't necessarily speak to you adds a little bit more to the challenge. But I think that mental stimulation for me really helps.
That's pretty. Yeah, animals don't speak, but sometimes humans, as a clinician, they lie. Anyway,
animals don't lie.
Animals are too sweet.
Oh, no.
They are honest. Yeah.
So wait, you but what do you prefer the most? Because you have a lot here in your bio. Mm-hmm. Small animals, horses. Like, where's your main focus?
Well, that's the thing is, I mean, it's hard to put my finger on any one thing I like the best. I mean, the different types of medicine I practice have been so different. I mean, there's something exciting about working with horses. I worked in an emergency, like an emergency room setting. So the fast pace of that and trying to get the answer as quick as possible and stabilize animals, that's fun. But then, I also liked working in small animal general practice too. A lot more interaction with owners, helping them kind of work through problems, but also, when it's general practice, you get more of an opportunity to address problems before they come up and educate owners on the best way to maintain their animal's health. So I guess I don't have one particular aspect of medicine that I like, but I mean, that's the benefit of vet medicine, is that there's so many different avenues that you can pursue, and even when you go down one, it doesn't preclude you from trying others out as well.
Wait, when you I just before you go on, I just want to when you say small animal, I mean, I think I'm going to sound stupid here, but I don't like. I think of a Chihuahua. I think your small animal to you is just smaller than a horse. Is that right? I mean, I don't. How do you define it?
It's kind of an odd. It's kind of a industry, I guess you'd say, industry terminology, and a little arbitrary. But we tend to use the term small animal when we're talking about dogs and cats, and large animals when we talk about horses, goats, cows, etc. The size part is, like I said, a little arbitrary, because a miniature horse can be smaller than a Great Dane, right? Goats are smaller than average sized dogs, so it really has less to do with size, and it's a way we kind of distinguish between the companion animals, which tend to be more like the carnivores, and then the larger animals, which tend to be more production type animals.
Oh, okay. I was wondering the same thing, Dr. Mike, so I'm happy you asked.
There you go.
So we're going to focus on specifically dog health and dog health as it relates to joint health. Our sponsor, Life Extension, has identified that many pet owners are concerned about the joints, the health of their dog's joints. And I would like for you to give us insight on what are some of the varying joint issues that dogs face.
Yeah, well, joint issues are a super common problem. They're also a very diverse problem. So, I think when people think joint issues, a lot of times they kind of lock themselves into thinking that it's osteoarthritis, and certainly that is a huge concern. But joint issues range from developmental problems, so especially in large dogs that tend to grow very fast, and if we don't, pay attention to their nutrition as they're growing, there's more likely for them to develop problems as they grow very quickly. There's also the congenital type problems and the genetic problems, animals that are just born with a poor set of genes that lead to things like dysplasia, where the hips or elbows don't develop correctly. And then there's plenty of traumatic joint injuries as well. Probably one of the most common types of surgery, orthopedic surgery in vet medicine, is repairing cruciate ligaments, which are like the ACL in a human athlete. Dogs tend to tear those pretty readily. So joint issues kind of span a wide variety of etiologies.
Yeah. So I Dr. Connolly, my dog Charlie, Charlie.
Yes. Charlie.
He's a pretty big. He's an English Golden, so they call them cream retrievers or something like that. He was growing so fast as a puppy that he got his growth plates were inflamed or something. I know there's a name for it or whatever, and they were really concerned that would lead to bad joints early in life. So far, he's 4.5, and he seems perfectly fine. But we keep an eye out on him for that. Do you remember what is that called, Dr. Connolly? Do you know?
It could be panosteitis. I don't know if that's there's a few different conditions, but that's certainly one of them, where bones and joints become inflamed just because of rapid growth.
Yeah, he went from like a small little puppy to like almost adult size in a couple months. I mean, he just went. Whew.
But that makes me think. So, do you find more of the joint issues in the larger dogs versus the smaller dogs?
And breeds too, right?
And breeds, right?
Different breeds.
Yeah, and joint issues are pretty. It depends on the joint issue, of course. But certainly for the larger breed dogs that grow very fast, that if we don't pay attention to their nutrition and they grow too quickly, they can develop joint joint issues. But even like the small dogs genetically tend to get this condition called patellar luxation, where their kneecaps kind of pop out of place. And it could be a progressive disease. Their knees tend to lock up when they walk, but down the road, if that's not addressed, that can lead to things like osteoarthritis. So it's not that one particular size or breed is more predisposed to joint problems in general. It's just that each breed kind of has their own predispositions. And sometimes the causes are very different between the large and small breeds. But if we're talking about joint health in general, any dog could potentially get it.
Wow. So I would imagine the same rules that apply for humans apply for dogs. If you don't move, you have to use
got to use it.
A body in motion stays in motion, a body at rest stays in rest. And the reason I say that, Winston was lazy. He
even
was
younger,
a hound.
even
as a young. I mean, he was, when you would get him up and get him moving, but he preferred
not to do
to be in his doggy bed on the sofa, just a lazy hound all the time. And I always used to tell my husband, "Come on, we have to get him up and moving."
Yeah.
Does the same idea apply with dogs?
Yeah, absolutely. So certainly moving around, strengthening muscles can help to protect the joints. But also, I think people underappreciate, and the same phenomenon is true in people too, just the effect of weight. So we don't have BMIs in dogs, but we use a different sort of scale to judge body condition called body condition scoring, and that animals that are overweight they're putting a lot more stress on those joints. And so moving around helps maintain a good body weight, also proper feeding as well. And I think it's underappreciated because, I think we tend to, associate our love of dogs with giving them more to eat. But if we really love them that much, we would try and keep their weight at something more healthy and reduce the risk of problems developing down the road.
So I mean, obviously, if your dog's limping, there's a problem. Go get that checked. But I think with dogs, it's not always obvious, though, right? Like what are some of the other signs that we could look for that you might be like, that could be a joint issue?
Yeah. So it's not, as you said, it's not always apparently obvious. Some dogs are very will show you their pain by limping, and things like that are easy to pick out. But some of the more common things, especially for more subtle degenerative diseases like osteoarthritis, it might start off as reluctance to do the kind of things they normally do. They don't want to get up as much. They don't want to walk as long as they normally do. Reluctance to go up and down stairs. Sometimes it can be even more subtle. They just seem kind of withdrawn. They can even get somewhat aggressive if the pain is enough. So it's not always the limping dog that's the concern. It's the dog that's just reluctant to partake in the kind of things that it normally enjoys.
Oh,
so just a change in behavior.
Yeah, you have to kind of notice. Know your dog, right? And people do.
Most
you
times.
know pretty quick when there's something something don't look right, Charlie.
So I want to transition to nutrition. The big debate. I'm just going to put it out there. There's a debate out there on
about
food,
nutrition.
With dog nutrition. I mean, you go to the pet store unless you buy your food online. There's so many options, and then you see. So we always use. I won't say the brand, but you have these grain-free brands, and these brands where they're trying to say the dog needs to eat how it would eat out in the wild. Meat. Dogs need meat, and I believe dogs need veggies too.
Veggies and even some grains aren't so bad. And then there's the raw diet now that's huge. So yeah, we have a guest that can help us with all this.
I know.
You keep talking about it.
So can you tell us about your what do you suggest we should be feeding our dogs to keep their joints healthy?
Well, this is a difficult one to wade into because, as you said, there's definitely a lot of controversy. What I can tell you is that the kind of things that we've at least shown scientifically is that dogs certainly need a set of nutrients, right? And the nutrient requirements, the USDA comes up with our nutrient requirements for humans, and for dogs we have a set as well. The National Research Council and AFCO, which is a food labeling organization, have they've established the kind of nutrients that a dog needs, and they actually make it kind of easy. AFCO has requires dog food manufacturers to put on labels, what the diet is appropriate for. So if the diet contains all the nutrients that are required for a dog at a particular life stage, whether they're growing, whether they're adults, whether they're older, these statements basically cover and let the consumer know that all the necessary nutrients are there. If we're talking about the more specialty or the individual diets, like the raw versus the dry extruded versus the wet, again, there's controversy there too, and some people swear by raw diets, and that is closer to what a dog might eat in the wild. First of all, there's really no, our domestic dogs are not wolves anymore. They haven't been for
Yeah, I've heard
40,000 years or so. And if you look genetically, dogs, and probably because of the process of domestication and growing up near near people, have developed genetically a much more rigorous way of digesting carbohydrates. So dogs actually have many more starch digesting genes than people do. Dogs can secrete in their saliva. Their saliva starts to break down carbs while they eat them. So that's one way they differ with dogs. So they can actually subsist pretty well and derive a lot of nutrition from carbohydrates. Now, obviously, you don't want to load up their diet full of starch because that's not what they need, but they can certainly do well on them. And the grain, I know the grain-free fad kind of came out, and there's really nothing wrong with it. They have shown some associations though between grain-free diets and heart disease in dogs, and it's a reversible. It's a reversible observation. So, and it's not because dogs need grains to survive, but there's something in the composition of grain-free diets that might be suppressing some other nutrients. They're thinking maybe taurine, which is an amino acid that grain-free diets prevent the dog from absorbing it, perhaps, which down the road can lead to a particular type of heart disease. When you add that nutrient back, or if you switch them to a non-grain-free diet, they tend to do okay. And then there's obviously the raw diets, and raw diets. Studies have shown they do have some benefits. I mean, they are digested somewhat better than extruded commercial diets. The typical kibble and wet food. Now, that the degree by which that they're digested isn't, it's not super significantly higher, but it's something. Raw diets might also increase microbial diversity, so the biome, the good bacteria growing in the gut. The flip side is that that they're raw, so they have the potential of carrying potentially harmful bacteria. So that's controlled for when you buy a commercial raw diet. But if you're preparing your own, it's always something to consider. But I would tell everyone, no matter what diet you feed, making sure it's balanced is the most important thing. I think people, they think wolves and they think I should be feeding them a lot of meat, but dogs have evolved and they require a wider nutrient profile. And if you think about it, when a wolf is when wolves feed in the wild, they're not eating muscle meat, right? Which it's got a lot of protein in it, but not a lot of other nutrients. Dogs wolves in the wild are eating the entire animal. So they're eating, organs, they're eating intestinal content. So they're actually getting a pretty wide range of nutrients, which again is not reflected in, when you feed, a dog chicken or beef So nutrient balance is important, and thankfully that there are organizations like NRC, AFCO that look at the kind of nutrients that a dog needs and can help you by labeling packages or establishing these nutrient requirements, so you can kind of put together a diet or purchase a diet that hits all the marks, that hits all provides all the essential nutrients that the dog needs.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking about joints, though, specifically, as Charlie gets older, and I start thinking about his joints. What are the nutrients should I be looking for? Listen, I've been doing this a long time. I know what humans need. Is it the same thing? So, what are those dog joint nutrients I should look for on labels, and maybe even a separate supplement or something?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so they're pretty similar to the nutrients that are that we use in people. And if you think about it, human medicine, veterinary medicine are pretty interrelated. We develop bone development in the dog and joint development in the dog is very similar to people, and that's why we sometimes even use domestic animals as models for human joint development. But some of the things that have shown some promise nutrient-wise, certainly the omega-3 fatty acids, probably the most studied and most reliable joint nutrients. So I think the last time I checked, maybe 21 studies on DHA and EPA, the omega-3 fatty acids from fish oil, studies on them in dogs, all of which showed positive results on improving mobility, reducing the reliance on medications for inflammation. So that's certainly one to look at. I know a lot of people go to the glucosamine and chondroitin. Some of the data on that has been mixed. I would, I suggest to people it doesn't hurt to try it. It's, if you think about it, dogs have been getting it in their diet, dogs and wolves for eons, chewing through bone and getting cartilage, et cetera. Hasn't had, been as successful in nutrients in studies as it maybe has in people, but there has been some positive data, so it's certainly something to look at. Those two nutrients are ones that typically get put into dog foods or fortified into dog foods, but there's certainly other nutrients out there that aren't normally found in foods, but can be found as supplements. So, a few of them are some of the same ones that we use in people, or that have shown some success in people, like the boswellia and the green lip mussel, the avocado saponifiables. Have all had studies in dogs that have been, fairly successful at improving their mobility, reducing signs of pain. Sometimes, combined with conventional medications, have enabled us to reduce the amount of medication that we give the dog, which in the end is, is going to help it out as well. There's a nutrient out there called palmitoyl ethanolamide, PEA, which is kind of it's kind of a little bit newer. It doesn't have as much research in dogs. So, it's something that they're just starting to look at, but the couple studies that they've done on it have been pretty encouraging. So it's actually it acts on cannabinoid receptors. So the same way like that CBD does, if you guys are familiar with that, but it's in acting on these cannabinoid receptors, it reduces pain, but also can reduce some of the tissue damage, cartilage damage. So it's, interesting. There's not as many commercial products out there. As a matter of fact, I think I only know, I've only seen a couple of them, but that's one I would probably keep an eye on, because that's certainly one that
we know PEA. We've talked about that a lot.
Okay.
A lot of good human studies in joint pain and other kind of pain conditions.
Yeah. I mean, with I opened and I talked about Winston, that's what we gave Winston for a long time.
Really? Okay.
And it was just a miracle nutrient for him.
Wow.
Even his vet said, "What, keep giving it to him," and we were able to reduce the medication,
Very nice.
that the vet had him on, and we would add in the PEA and give him some with his breakfast and with his dinner, and
It worked. It was great.
It worked.
That's nice. That's
Yes.
Yeah. It's there's a lot of good evidence. Dr. Connolly, did you say avocado oil? Is that what
Yes,
did I hear that?
Heard avocado.
The avocado saponifiables, that the same, not the oil, but the same extract that they use in people. There's a couple of studies on that in dogs as well.
Oh,
one of the difficulties, of course, in kind of assessing all these nutrients is a lot of times that studies will combine multiple nutrients together. So certainly for things like fish oil and for glucosamine chondroitin, there's enough studies where they've been studied on their own that we can attribute the effect to those. But for others like the green lip mussel, boswellia, et cetera, usually given in combinations, and the combination was worked very well in dogs in these studies, but it's when you mix a lot of things together, it's hard
what's really working.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's not a clean study.
No, but again, it kind of points us in a direction, towards what kind of things might work. And so if the combination works, you can anticipate that it would have a similar effect, if given to your pet.
Yeah, so that's a nice nutrient roundup.
Yeah.
Omega-3s,
The avocados,
avocado
PEA,
extracts, PEA, some
glucosamine.
chondroitin.
Throw some
That
in
doesn't
there.
hurt.
Yeah.
That's a nice. So how would someone know the doses of those, or would you just follow whatever you see on your label?
Yeah, that's probably the best. I mean, there's certainly resources you can read through read through studies. You can go to university websites. They can give you the individual doses that were used in particular studies that were successful. Though if you think about it, the dog body sizes are very, very diverse. So you have 5-pound teacup poodles and 120-pound mastiffs, so that
pretty wide range.
So that the dosing becomes a little more of a challenge. A lot of these products, will dose by weight, so a certain number of tablets, and it's probably the best place to start is to kind of follow what is on labels for existing dog products, just because it's not because the small animal obviously doesn't need as much as the large animal does. So to save yourself from doing all that math, label
keep it simple.
Well, I know you have a focus in clinical nutrition. Would other veterinarians, would they be able to be a guide? I mean,
good
I
question.
guess we could just tell our listeners, check with your vet.
You check with your vet. If not, call Dr. Connolly.
But are
don't
all
put my
vets
number.
kind of trained in these nutritional add-ins?
It's becoming more more common in vet school curricula. Is that the plural?
Close enough.
Close enough. It's becoming a lot more common to have an emphasis in nutrition. So, and certainly because all these products are out there, just like with human supplements, people can walk through a pet store aisle, look online and pick these up. That a lot of us, just in order to keep on top of what's out there, tend to do our research on these individual nutrients, just so that we can have fruitful conversations with owners about what different things do. And so I guess the short answer would be a lot of veterinarians have either had some training or certainly have trained on their own in order to be familiar with a lot of these nutrients and their effects. So talking to your vet is definitely a place to start. And most veterinarians are pretty good at at tracking down information for you if it's something they don't know off the top of their head.
They are. Vets are always so nice. I've
What?
never,
MDs
I've
aren't?
never
No, don't answer that.
Dr. Mike's a
Don't
medical doctor, and
answer
so
that.
we know
I figured.
your
Yeah.
experience can vary.
I know the truth. Yes, you're right. You're right.
I've never met a veterinarian that wasn't just so kind to the core.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Connolly, for coming on.
Oh yeah, absolutely. This was fun. Did I do okay?
You did excellent. We always like to close with kind of a general statement. So as a veterinarian, what are the top 2 or 3 things that you wish all pet owners knew?
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I can kind of probably sum it up in the top one thing is that regular this is not a plug for the industry, but regular vet visits and preventative medicine can go a long way. There's so many potential diseases that dogs get, and if you think about some of the most common ones and the most debilitating, like the arthritis and the heart disease and kidney disease, a lot of these can be caught fairly early, and if they are, there's things we can do either through medication or nutrition to kind of slow the process of some of these. I mean, we haven't, just like in human medicine, we haven't necessarily come up with a linchpin cure for heart disease and kidney disease and arthritis, et cetera. But we can slow them down pretty significantly and give dogs a lot more healthy, happy years just by catching things early. And the only way to do that really is regular visits and regular examinations. And it doesn't have to be multiple times a year. I think the American Animal Hospital Association recommends, for your average adult dog, a visit once a year. And it doesn't, I know a lot of people, there's controversy with vaccines and medications, et cetera, but not, as an industry, we try to do the best for the animal. We take an oath, just like Dr. Mike did. We take an oath to do the best we can for animals. And, a lot of veterinarians are very amenable to coming up with customized plans for animal. I don't necessarily vaccinate every animal that come in. Some of them are at risk. Some of them are not. So, we do what is appropriate each time. And so without going to the vet, you're potentially missing out on heading a lot of diseases off before they become problematic.
I like that. That's a nice way to end.
That is an awesome way to end. You're listening to Live Foreverish with our guest, Dr. Kevin Connolly. Dr. Connolly, do you have any social media handles you would like for our listeners?
Did you say handles?
Social media.
You get fancy.
How can our listeners follow? Do you share any inspirational pet quotes? Pet memes? They're always cute.
Yeah, and I probably should. I don't. I suppose if you want to track, I try to maintain a low profile. No, I suppose you could, Pierce College. You can find out what we're doing over there by going to the Pierce College website. But I don't really have any other social media. I'm sure if someone really needed to reach me, they can probably call you guys up, right?
Okay. Call us if you have questions for Dr. Kevin Connolly. Thank you for joining our show today.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks for having me on.
All right. And if you love this episode, there's many, many more.
Over 400.
Over 400 at liveforeverish.com. You can head there, give us a comment. Make sure you subscribe to our channel so that you never miss a show. Again, that's liveforeverish.com. And our sponsor, Life Extension, would like to just say thank you for being loyal supporters.
You got a great audience
of the Live Foreverish show. But hey, go to the website, lifeextension.com, place an order. At checkout, type in the code podcast to receive 10% off your entire order if it's $50 or more plus free shipping. Say that code again, Dr.
Podcast. That's it.
podcast at lifeextension.com. And again, liveforeverish.com. You can find the audio versions of our show. But if you would like to see.
If you can watch, you can watch.
You can watch it.
YouTube.
The YouTube channel, the Life Extension Wellness YouTube channel.
Yep.
You'll find the video versions of our podcast. So we appreciate all of your support. I'm Dr. Crystal for Live Foreverish, and that's
Dr. Mike.
Thanks for listening.
Podcast.